It was just another quiet Sunday morning. The sunlight streamed gently through the kitchen window, casting warm stripes across the wooden floor. Emma sipped her coffee, humming softly to herself, while her senior golden retriever Max lay sprawled lazily by the doorway. Everything felt ordinary, peaceful. But then Max's ears perked sharply. His eyes locked on the pair of worn-out sneakers sitting by the door, her late husband's sneakers. Slowly, hesitantly, he rose and padded over, circling the shoes, his nose twitching. A soft whine escaped him. Emma frowned, confused. Max had never been unsettled by shoes before. He nudged one with his nose, sat down beside them, and let out a low, trembling whine. Emma's chest tightened. She knelt beside him, placing a hand gently on his back, feeling the shiver that ran through his old, tired body. Her eyes welled up as she realized how deeply he remembered, how he knew someone was missing. The quiet kitchen now felt heavy with absence and memory. Max's gaze never left the shoes. His tail thumped softly, yet hesitantly, as if trying to comfort Emma but also pleading for understanding. She wrapped her arms around him, feeling the warmth of his fur against her own sorrow, the silent communication between a loyal companion and a heart that still ached. And then it hit her, the subtle way Max was watching, waiting, refusing to leave the shoes alone, almost as if he was trying to tell her something. That's when everything finally made sense. Before we continue, remember to like, share, and subscribe for more heart-touching dog stories. And tell me, where are you watching from? The morning was soft. Golden sunlight spilled through the kitchen window, warming the worn oak floorboards. Dust motes danced lazily in the rays. A gentle breeze drifted in from the cracked window, carrying the faint scent of dew and garden flowers. Emma sat at the small kitchen table, a steaming cup of coffee in her hands. She breathed in the rich aroma, letting it settle in her chest. The house was quiet. Too quiet, perhaps. But that was normal on Sundays. Max lay by the doorway, sprawled in his usual spot. His fur, once bright gold, had dulled with age, silver streaks lining his muzzle and paws. But his eyes still held the same spark, the same quiet intelligence. He lifted his head slightly and watched Emma as she sipped her coffee. "Morning, boy," she said softly, reaching out to scratch behind his ears. His tail thumped once, then twice. Slow, deliberate. Not the exuberant wag of his youth, but the steady heartbeat of companionship. The kettle whistled. Emma poured the hot water over her French press, listening to the gurgle as the coffee bloomed. Max's ears twitched, a subtle response to the familiar sounds of morning. He closed his eyes again, content to simply be near her. Outside, the garden hummed with life. Birds called to each other across the fence. A light breeze carried the scent of damp earth and budding roses. Emma inhaled deeply. She loved this time of day, the calm, the ordinary rhythm of life. Max shifted slightly, lifting his head again. He sniffed the air, slow, careful. Something had changed. But not yet. Not enough to break the quiet. He laid his head down again, eyes half closed. The sun caught the silver in his fur, and for a moment Emma thought he looked almost ethereal, like a guardian keeping watch over her memories. She stood, stretching her shoulders, and walked to the living room. The worn rug muffled her steps. Max followed, his joints creaking softly. He settled near the couch, eyes tracking her every move. Emma's gaze fell on the shoes by the doorway. Her husband's sneakers. Empty. Still. Waiting. A faint ache tugged at her chest, a reminder of mornings like this long past. She didn't notice Max's gaze had fixed on them. She sat on the couch, lifting her coffee again. The warmth seeped into her hands. Max remained quiet. Still. Loyal. Calm. Like he had always been. But there was something in the way he breathed. Something that spoke of memory and attention, even in his old age. The morning drifted on. Outside, the sun climbed higher, bathing the room in soft light. Emma hummed a tune, low and uncertain, the kind of song one sings to remember the comfort of a person now gone. Max stirred slightly, shifting closer to the shoes, nose twitching. He stopped. Listen. Waited. Emma didn't notice yet. She was still caught in the quiet, sipping her coffee, the soft hum of life around her. But Max knew. He rose slowly, deliberately, each step measured. He padded toward the shoes, not playfully, not out of habit, but with purpose. His nose twitched. His ears lifted. His old tail thumped softly against the floor, hesitant yet determined. Emma set her cup down. She noticed him now, the subtle intensity in his eyes. Max! Her voice was soft, almost questioning. He nudged the sneakers gently with his nose, sat beside them, and let out a low trembling whine. Emma's chest tightened. She knelt beside him, running her hand along his back. The tremble in his body mirrored the ache in her own heart. She understood, though she didn't yet fully know why, that Max remembered, that he felt, that he knew someone was missing. The quiet morning had shifted. A weight settled in the air. The light felt warmer, yet heavier, as if carrying memory itself. Emma wrapped her arms around Max, feeling the familiar warmth of his fur, the steady pulse of his old heart. They stayed like that for a long moment, suspended in the quiet tension of remembrance and devotion. Max's gaze never left the shoes, his breathing slow but deliberate, careful, reverent. Emma swallowed, trying to steady her voice. Max, what is it, boy? He nudged the shoe again, sat closer, looked at her with eyes that seemed to say, remember, feel, don't forget. Emma's throat tightened. The sun caught the silver in his fur, casting a gentle halo around him. In that light he seemed less a dog and more a silent guardian of memory, of love that remained. She hugged him tighter. Softly, almost to herself, she whispered, I think I understand. And for the first time that morning the quiet house felt different. Something was about to unfold. Something that Max had been waiting for. The kitchen was still bathed in the soft morning light, but something had shifted. The quiet calm of the house was no longer just peaceful. It carried a weight, a subtle tension that Emma couldn't yet name. Max sat rigidly beside the shoes, eyes locked on them. His tail thumped once, twice, slowly, hesitantly. But it wasn't the casual thump of an old dog stretching. It was purposeful, attentive, alert. He lifted a paw, pressed it gently against the worn leather, and sniffed. His nose quivered as he drew in a deep, careful breath. Emma watched him, a frown knitting her brows. Max, what is it? She asked softly. Her voice broke the silence, but it didn't seem to reach him. Not yet. He rose again, circling the shoes. Each step was deliberate, measured, almost ritualistic. His ears twitched toward every creak in the house, every whisper of wind outside the window. He stopped, sniffed the floor, listened, waited. Emma approached cautiously, crouching down. Max, come here. She reached a hand toward him. He hesitated, just a fraction, then nudged the shoes again. A soft whine escaped his lips, low, almost mournful. Emma's heart tightened. The sensation was strange, unfamiliar. She had known Max for 12 years, seen him through storms, walks, long quiet evenings. But she had never seen him like this, so insistent, so focused. Outside a bird called. The sound should have been comforting, but in that quiet kitchen it sounded distant. Emma leaned closer, noticing the subtle signs she had missed at first. The way his body was tense, shoulders slightly hunched, tail stiffening at intervals, eyes never leaving the shoes. Max, is it them? Her voice faltered. She didn't finish. She couldn't. He circled once more, pawing gently at the right shoe. Sat again. Nose twitching. Whine rising just slightly like a plea, a soft cry she hadn't heard before. Emma placed her hand over his, feeling the warmth of his fur. The subtle tremor in his body mirrored something deep inside her own chest. Max tilted his head slightly, looking up at her with eyes that seemed to question. Do you see it? Do you feel it? Emma swallowed. She didn't know what she felt, grief, memory, a flicker of understanding. But she knew she had to watch, to wait, to let him guide her. He got up slowly, sniffing the air. His ears rotated, picking up even the faintest sounds from the hallway, the faint buzz of the refrigerator, the flutter of the curtains. Then he returned to the shoes, pressing his body gently against them. His tail thumped softly, rhythmically, a heartbeat in sync with the quiet morning. Emma took a step back, her fingers brushing the counter for support. "Max, you're scaring me a little, boy." Her words were soft, careful, almost apologetic. She could see the intelligence in his gaze, the knowledge that she didn't yet share. He whined again, a sound not of complaint but of insistence, urgency, attention. Emma knelt, bringing herself level with him. Okay, I'm here. I'm listening." Max's nose twitched once more. He sniffed the shoes, then the air around them, then Emma's hands. He nudged the left sneaker this time, pressing his snout gently, as though to point something out. She froze. Her breath caught. Memory's tiny flickering flashes came unbidden. Laughter in the hallway. Shoes lined up by the door. Morning routines. That faint scent of him that lingered in the leather. Max lay down beside the shoes, head resting gently against the left one. Eyes closed briefly, almost reverent. Then he opened them again, scanning Emma with calm, patient insistence. The sunlight shifted slightly, casting long shadows across the floor. Dust motes swirled in the warm rays, catching the faint movement of Max's fur. The house, so familiar, felt transformed, sacred somehow, alive with memory. Emma wrapped her arms around him again. He leaned into her embrace, heavy with age but light with purpose. She whispered, "You're trying to tell me something, aren't you?" Max lifted his head, ears perked, eyes locked on hers. A slow, soft whine escaped, and in that sound, Emma felt a connection stronger than words. A bridge across absence, a reminder that memory and love were still present, still living in the quiet, loyal heart of her dog. The room remained still. Sunlight warmed their faces. Max rested his head back on the shoes. But now his eyes had a light, a quiet insistence, a soft message Emma couldn't yet fully understand. The moment stretched. Long, tender, suspenseful in the gentlest way. Emma realized something was coming. Something important. Something she hadn't expected. She exhaled slowly. And for the first time that morning, she let herself wait. Fully, completely, beside Max and the empty shoes. But what Max sensed was far from ordinary. Emma sat back on the edge of the couch, her hands resting lightly on Max's fur. He remained still beside the shoes, ears alert, nose twitching, eyes locked on them as if he could see into the past. The faint whine that escaped him now was quieter, almost pleading but persistent. She sighed, rubbing her temples. "It's just old habits, Max. That's all." Her voice was calm but her chest tightened. She tried to convince herself. She had seen him do strange things before. Dreams perhaps. Age. Nothing more. Surely. Max lifted his head, watching her with patient, knowing eyes. He tilted it slightly, a subtle gesture he had done countless times before, but now it felt different. Insistent. Almost guiding. Emma frowned. "I don't understand you, boy." She glanced at the shoes, then back at him. The morning sunlight painted his golden fur in streaks of warmth, but the weight in the room had shifted. Something lingered that she couldn't name. Max nudged the right shoe gently, then lifted his paw and rested it on the left. He let out a soft, trembling whine. Emma blinked. "Stop worrying me, Max." She tried to laugh softly, but it came out hollow. Her fingers traced the outline of the shoes absent-mindedly. They were just shoes. Nothing more. Empty leather, worn and familiar. Max's tail thumped once, then twice slowly. Not impatiently but deliberately. His old joints creaked as he shifted, inching closer to the sneakers, pressing his side gently against them. His head lifted, ears swiveling to catch every faint sound, the hum of the refrigerator, the distant bird call outside, the soft scuff of her slippers against the rug. Emma leaned back further, crossing her arms. "You're imagining things, aren't you?" she murmured, almost to herself. Yet the pit in her stomach said otherwise. There was intention in Max's behavior. He wasn't confused. He wasn't dreaming. She watched as he lowered his head again, nudging the left shoe with his nose, then lifting it slightly with his paw, pressing it against his cheek. His breath was slow, careful, and she realized it carried a faint, familiar scent. A memory. Her hands shook slightly. She tried to rationalize it. Dogs sense things. Dogs act out of instinct. Old dogs are strange sometimes. Max rose, pacing slowly in a small circle around the shoes, his nails clicking softly on the hardwood. He stopped abruptly, ears twitching, and let out a gentle whine, his old body trembling slightly. Emma's heart fluttered. She leaned forward, resting her elbows on her knees, studying him. Max, you're acting different. Are you sad? Her voice barely rose above a whisper. He circled again, pressing his nose into the left shoe, then sat abruptly, tail wrapped around his paws, gaze fixed on her. Emma's eyes filled. She reached out to stroke him. I don't understand, Max. I don't know what you're trying to tell me. She exhaled slowly, the tension in her shoulders easing for a moment as she tried to ground herself. Max lowered his head, just for a moment, resting it near the shoes. Then he lifted it again, looking at her directly, with those eyes that seemed too knowing, too patient. The room was still. Soft light fell across the floor. Dust motes drifted lazily. And yet, Emma felt a weight pressing against her chest, the weight of expectation, memory, and an unspoken message she couldn't quite grasp. She shook her head, whispering, I'm probably reading too much into it. You're just old remembering. But Max's behavior didn't waver. He nudged the shoes again, leaned into them, whined softly, almost in rhythm with her heartbeat. Emma's rational mind fought with her intuition. It's just a dog. And yet, every instinct she had screamed otherwise. She looked at his old, steady eyes and felt a flicker of fear mingled with hope. He shifted slightly, circling the shoes one last time before sitting, his posture rigid but calm, tail thumping lightly, head held high, watching, waiting. Emma exhaled again, slower this time. Okay, Max, she whispered. I'll pay attention. I'll try to understand. The soft sunlight caught his fur, the worn shoes, the quiet room, and in that delicate, suspended moment, Emma felt it, the undeniable sense that Max knew something she didn't. Something important. Her hand rested on his back. His warmth seeped into her palm. She felt the steady, deliberate rhythm of his breathing. And slowly she realized that this moment, the soft tension, the insistence of memory, the silent communication, was not just about the shoes. It was about connection. It was about remembrance. It was about love that never left. Max nudged the shoe once more, whispered, almost imperceptibly with his whine. A reminder. A guide. Emma's chest tightened again. She leaned closer. She didn't fully understand yet, but she would. She had to. Moments later everything changed. The quiet of the morning no longer felt gentle. It had grown heavier, like the soft press of something unspoken pressing against Emma's chest. Max remained by the shoes, his body tense, yet calm in its persistence. He nudged the left sneaker again, then the right, circling slowly, sniffing, pressing his paw gently against the worn leather. His ears rotated to catch every faint sound in the house, the hum of the fridge, the soft rustle of curtains, the distant birdsong. He lowered his head to the floor, sniffing the air around the doorway. Then abruptly he lifted it, eyes locking with Emma's. She exhaled, her fingers gripping the edge of the couch. Max, you're not making any sense, she murmured. But even as she spoke, a flutter of unease traveled through her. He had never behaved like this before. Not like this, so deliberate, so insistent. He rose and padded slowly toward the hallway, tail stiff but wagging slightly, not in play but as a heartbeat, a rhythm to mark his intention. Then he returned to the shoes, nudging them, pressing his side gently, and letting out a soft, low whine. Each movement was subtle but repeated. An insistence, a quiet insistence that demanded attention. Emma followed him cautiously, kneeling beside the shoes. It's okay, Max. I'm right here. Her hand rested on his back. She could feel the trembling in his old muscles, a soft quiver that spoke of emotion deeper than she could name. He nudged the shoes again, then sat back, tail curling around his paws. His gaze stayed fixed on her, almost as if asking, "Do you understand yet?" Emma's eyes filled with tears. She leaned closer, pressing her cheek against his fur. "I'm trying, Max. I really am." She swallowed, taking in a shaky breath. "But it's just so much." Max shifted slightly, head tilting as his ears flicked toward a sound outside. The wind rustled the leaves in the garden, carrying the faint scent of roses, earth, and something else, something that tugged at her memory. He rose again, circling, nudging, then sitting firmly beside the shoes. His eyes were soft but insistent, patient yet urging. Emma's hands trembled. She realized she had been trying to impose reason where there was none. "Maybe he knows something I can't yet see." He nudged the shoes once more, then pressed his head gently against them, sighing, a soft, almost human-like exhalation. Max's eyes closed briefly, savoring the moment, and then opened again, locking with Emma's. Outside, the sun climbed higher, spilling brighter light into the room. Dust motes floated lazily, catching in the golden rays, glinting like tiny sparks of memory suspended in air. Emma watched the light, then Max, then the shoes. Her chest tightened again. She knelt fully now, hands brushing the worn leather. "I know you're trying to tell me something, Max," she whispered. I need to understand." Max responded with another soft whine, low, steady. Then he shifted closer, pressing both his paws against the shoes. His body was old, stiff, but every movement carried weight, purpose, and intent. Emma exhaled, letting the warmth of his fur seep into her palms. Her eyes traced every line of his aging face, every silver strand in his coat. He has always been my constant, she thought. And now he was trying to guide her through memory, through love, through something she hadn't fully grasped. The room held its breath. The quiet was no longer empty, it was charged. Each soft thump of Max's tail echoed in her chest. Each gentle whine pulled at her heart. Each nudge, each circling motion demanded that she pay attention, that she notice, that she feel. She leaned closer, voice barely a whisper. "I see you, Max. I see you." He tilted his head, ears flicking toward her words. A subtle exhale escaped his lips, like acknowledgement, like reassurance. Then he rested his head again against the shoes, eyes closing briefly, savoring the connection, the shared understanding building between them. Emma stayed beside him, quiet now, letting him guide her. She let the tension stretch, let the suspense breathe. She let herself feel everything: love, absence, memory, and hope. And as the light shifted across the floor, illuminating the shoes and Max's golden fur, she realized he would not relent. He would continue until she understood fully. Max's gaze remained fixed on her, patient, insistent, unyielding. The quiet morning had become a conversation without words, a lesson in remembrance. And Emma knew deep down that this was only the beginning. That's when the subtle truth began to unfold. Emma stayed on the floor beside Max, her hands resting gently on his fur. The soft morning light shifted across the room, highlighting the worn leather of the shoes, their faintly creased tongues and scuffed sides. She traced a finger over the left sneaker, remembering the shape of her husband's feet, the quiet steps he had taken here countless mornings before. Max nudged the shoe again, pressing his head gently against it, letting out a low whine. His eyes locked with hers, patient, insistent, full of quiet understanding. Emma felt a pang in her chest, a deep ache she hadn't realized had been waiting to surface. Her fingers brushed the inside of the shoes. A faint scent lingered, her husband's cologne, worn but unmistakable, a trace of him left behind. A memory stirred. Laughter in the hallway, the click of his shoes on the hardwood floor, the morning routines they had shared. Max circled once, then settled back beside the shoes, tail curling lightly around his paws. He sniffed the air, ears twitching, alert to every subtle sound. Then, gently, he rested his head again, almost reverently, against the left sneaker. Emma's chest tightened. She realized something. The shoes weren't just shoes. They were a connection, a bridge, a memory held in leather and stitching, in the faint scent that lingered. Max hadn't just been restless. He had been remembering. Tears filled her eyes. She cupped the side of his face, feeling the warmth of his fur against her palm. "Oh, Max, you knew all along, didn't you?" she whispered. "You've been keeping him with me." Max lifted his head slightly, eyes soft and understanding. He nudged the shoe gently, pressing his side closer to it. The low whine that escaped him now sounded less like pleading and more like affirmation. Emma leaned closer, inhaling the faint scent of him that clung to the shoes. A flood of memories returned, the way he had tied his laces every morning, the sound of his footsteps echoing down the hall, the quiet conversations they had shared over coffee. All those ordinary moments now glimmered with significance. She realized that Max had not been confused. He had been trying to show her, trying to remind her, trying to keep alive the memory of someone who had been so integral to their lives. The house, once just quiet, now seemed alive with echoes of the past. Each creak of the floorboards, each whisper of the curtains in the breeze, seemed to carry fragments of memory, reminders of mornings like this. And Max, steadfast and loyal, was the guardian of those moments. Emma hugged him tightly, resting her cheek against his soft fur. "You've been here for me all along, haven't you, Max?" she murmured. "Helping me remember, helping me feel, helping me heal." Max exhaled softly, leaning into her embrace, a steadying presence. His tail thumped lightly against the floor, a rhythm that seemed to echo the heartbeat of memory itself. He nudged the shoe one last time as if to say, "Now you understand." Emma closed her eyes, letting the warmth of his fur and the memories wrap around her. The revelation was gentle, heartwarming, and yet profound. She realized that grief and love could coexist, that memory could be kept alive, not just in her mind, but in the quiet actions of a loyal, intuitive friend. The sun climbed higher, spilling golden light across the shoes, Max, and the wooden floor. The house felt sacred in its quiet stillness. Emma whispered softly, "Thank you, Max, for showing me, for reminding me, for being here." Max rested his head back against the left sneaker, eyes closed for a moment, savoring the connection they had discovered together. The low thump of his tail and the gentle exhalation from his chest filled the room with warmth and quiet understanding. Emma sat there for a long while, letting the revelation sink in. The grief she had carried so privately was now tempered by love, memory, and the unwavering presence of her dog. She realized that life's ordinary objects, the shoes, the sunlight, the worn hardwood, could carry extraordinary meaning when shared with those who loved us unconditionally. And in that gentle, sacred morning, Emma understood the depth of Max's loyalty, not just as a pet, but as a keeper of memory, a silent companion guiding her through remembrance and love. Everything finally made sense. Emma hugged Max tightly, resting her cheek against his soft fur. She could feel his warmth seep into her, a living bridge to the memories she had held so quietly for so long. The low thump of his tail against the floor, steady and rhythmic, matched the heartbeat she hadn't realized was still tense with grief. Max leaned further into her, pressing his side against hers, nudging the left sneaker gently with his nose. It wasn't a request or a plea, it was reassurance. A reminder that she wasn't alone in her sorrow. Emma closed her eyes, letting the tears flow freely. "I miss him so much, Max," she whispered. "I don't know how to go on sometimes." His ears twitched and he lifted his head, placing it gently on her lap. His eyes were soft, patient, unwavering. The tremor in his old body seemed to carry empathy, a silent promise that he would stay, that he would help her carry the weight of loss. She stroked his fur, feeling each silver strand, each worn patch. "You've been here all along, haven't you? Watching over me, remembering him, helping me." Her voice trembled with a mixture of grief and gratitude. Max exhaled softly, nudging the sneaker once more, then resting his head again. His tail thumped lightly, a steady rhythm, grounding her in the moment. He shifted slightly, circling once before settling back beside the shoes, his presence both calming and protective. Emma leaned back, letting her forehead rest against his shoulder. She inhaled deeply, taking in the faint, lingering scent of her husband on the leather and Max's familiar, comforting smell. The combination was subtle, yet powerful, a bridge between past and present, memory and love. The sunlight shifted across the floor, illuminating the room with warmth. Dust motes drifted lazily in the rays, catching the gentle movements of Max's fur. Emma let herself breathe. Really breathe. For the first time in weeks, the tightness in her chest eased, replaced by something soft, comforting and alive. She whispered to him, "Thank you, Max. For staying. For reminding me. For being here when I couldn't see clearly." Max lifted his head slightly, as if acknowledging her words. Then he rested it again, pressing gently against the sneaker. His eyes closed briefly, a soft exhale escaping him, carrying the unspoken message that he understood. That he was here. That he always would be. Emma leaned back further, resting fully against him. Memories came in gentle waves, the sound of his footsteps, the laughter, the quiet mornings over coffee, the shared glances. Max had been holding all of it, carrying the past in his quiet, loyal way, letting her rediscover it in her own time. She rubbed the top of his head, feeling the rough softness of his ears, the warmth of his body, and the steady rhythm of his breathing. "You've saved me, Max," she whispered. "In a way I didn't even know I needed." He nudged her hand with his nose as if to say, "I'm always here." The room remained quiet, the sun spilling its golden light, dust motes dancing like tiny sparks in the air. The ache of absence softened, replaced by a gentle, nurturing presence. Emma felt it, the subtle healing energy flowing from Max, from memory, from love that transcended loss. Minutes passed. She let the moment linger, letting herself feel fully, openly, without rushing. Max rested beside the shoes, calm, patient, and steady. His body, though aged and tired, carried strength in his loyalty and devotion. Emma whispered again, softly, almost to herself, "We'll be okay, Max. We'll be okay together." Max thumped his tail lightly once, then twice, then rested his head fully on the left sneaker, eyes closing in quiet contentment. The tension, the grief, the longing, it was all there but softened, shared, held together by the presence of one loyal, intuitive dog and the memories of someone deeply loved. And in that gentle, heart-touching morning, Emma realized that rescue didn't always come in dramatic moments or sudden heroics. Sometimes it came quietly, patiently, with warm eyes, soft fur, and the steady beat of a loyal heart beside yours. For the first time in weeks, Emma felt the stirrings of peace. Love could heal, memory could guide, and loyalty could carry you through. The sunlight filtered through the curtains, painting the living room in soft gold. Emma sat in her favorite chair, Max lying beside her on the rug, head resting lightly against her knees. The shoes sat between them, a quiet monument to memory, to love, to what had been lost and what was still held. Each day now followed a gentle rhythm. Emma would wake and Max would be waiting, tail thumping softly, eyes alert but calm. Some mornings he nudged the shoes, a silent reminder to remember. Other mornings he simply stayed close, offering warmth and presence. Emma had learned to let him guide her through these moments, listening to his subtle signals, following the rhythm of his quiet insistence. She found herself speaking to him often, softly. "Remember when he used to make coffee just like this?" she would murmur, running her fingers over the worn leather of the sneakers. Max would nudge her hand, as if to affirm the memory, as if saying, "Yes, I remember too." The days stretched into weeks, each morning a blend of calm and subtle reflection. Emma began small rituals, placing the shoes in the same spot, keeping a mug ready by the counter, leaving the window cracked just enough to let the scent of the garden drift in. Max followed each ritual faithfully, circling the shoes gently, pressing his nose against them, or resting his head lightly on the left sneaker. One morning Emma noticed him pause, ears pricked, eyes tracking the light as it moved across the floor. She realized he was not just remembering, he was sensing the world, fully present in each moment, and teaching her to do the same. She took a deep breath, feeling the gentle rise and fall of her chest, the warmth of his fur against her hand, the soft light wrapping them together. They would walk in the garden together afterward. Max, old and careful, sometimes lagged a little behind, but his gaze always returned to her. When a breeze stirred the roses, carrying the faint scent of earth and memories, he would pause, sniff, and tilt his head, ears flicking toward the sounds of birds and leaves. Emma learned to slow her own pace, to match his careful attention, to notice the little things that made life rich. Evenings were gentle. They would sit by the window watching the sun dip low, casting amber light across the floor. Max would rest his head on her lap, eyes soft, occasionally glancing at the shoes by the door. Emma would speak quietly, telling stories of mornings long past, of laughter and love, of the ordinary moments now infused with meaning. Max listened, patient and steady, as if every word mattered. Through these small, quiet rituals, Emma began to heal. The ache of absence softened, replaced with warmth, with memory, with love that lingered in presence. She realized that grief could coexist with joy, that remembering someone didn't mean being trapped in sadness, but celebrating the enduring impact of their life. Max became her anchor, a steady presence guiding her through the currents of memory and emotion. His instincts were subtle but profound. The way he nudged the shoes, the rhythm of his tail, the careful placement of his paws, the quiet attentiveness in his gaze. He showed her that healing wasn't about rushing forward. It was about noticing, feeling, remembering, and sharing the journey with someone loyal. One afternoon, Emma sat on the porch steps, Max beside her. She closed her eyes and let the sunlight warm her face. She felt the soft press of his body against hers, the gentle rhythm of his breathing, the steady thump of his tail. She opened her eyes to see the garden in quiet bloom, and for the first time in weeks, she smiled without hesitation. Max lifted his head, ears pricking as if sensing her thought. He nudged her hand gently. She laughed softly, brushing her fingers over his fur. "Thank you, Max," she said, "for staying, for guiding me, for helping me find peace." He rested his head back down, eyes closing in quiet contentment. The shoes sat nearby, silent yet sacred, holding the past without weighing on the present. And Emma felt the truth of it. Healing wasn't about forgetting. It was about living fully, with memory as a gentle companion, and love as a guiding light. The house was calm, the sun warm. Dust motes floated in golden streams of light. And in the quiet, Emma realized that every breath, every small ritual, every moment with Max, was a step toward mending her heart. Together, they were not just surviving, they were learning to live again. In the soft rhythm of daily life, love and memory walked beside them, steady and true. The morning sun spilled across the wooden floor, warm and golden, as Max rested beside the shoes by the doorway. Emma stood nearby, hands lightly clasped, watching him with a soft smile. The house felt alive, not in noise but in memory, in quiet love, in presence. Max lifted his head, ears twitching at the sound of her footsteps. His eyes met hers, calm, steady, patient. He nudged the left sneaker gently with his nose, then rested his head back down. The low thump of his tail echoed softly across the floor, a quiet rhythm of devotion, of unwavering loyalty. Emma knelt beside him, running her fingers through the soft silver strands of his fur. "You've always known, haven't you, Max?" she whispered. Her voice trembled, but the tremor carried warmth rather than sorrow. "You've been here all along, keeping him close, helping me remember." Max exhaled softly, pressing his side into hers. His eyes closed briefly, a soft, contented sigh escaping him. Then they opened again, watching her with unwavering focus, as if to say, "We're together. Always." The morning light shifted, dust motes dancing in the golden beams. Emma felt a deep, steady calm wash over her. Every small ritual, every gentle touch, every quiet glance shared with Max had woven their hearts together. She realized now that their bond was more than companionship. It was a living thread connecting past and present, memory and love, sorrow and healing. She leaned closer, pressing her cheek against his fur. "You've taught me so much, Max. About patience. About memory. About love." Her voice was soft, reverent. "Even when I felt lost, you were here. You still are." Max nudged the shoes again, a subtle affirmation. Then he rested his head fully on them, tail curling gently around his paws. He was old, his body a little stiff, his steps careful. But the loyalty, the love, the wisdom in his gaze, those had not aged a day. Emma smiled through tears that had softened into quiet joy. She realized that Max was more than a pet. He was a guardian of memory, a keeper of love, a living testament to the power of devotion. And in that moment, she understood something she hadn't before. Love doesn't leave when someone is gone. It remains. It persists. It speaks through gestures, through presence, through the steady rhythm of a loyal heart beside yours. The house remained quiet. The sunlight wrapped around them like a gentle embrace. Outside, the garden stirred with the soft breeze, petals brushing against each other in a whisper. Emma felt the sacred rhythm of life around her, the ordinary moments now infused with extraordinary meaning. She spoke softly to Max. "I promise I'll keep remembering for both of us. And I'll carry him with me, just as you have." Max exhaled, tail thumping once. Then twice. He nudged her hand gently with his nose, a subtle, loving reminder that their bond was unbreakable. He had guided her through grief, helped her find peace, and now stood beside her as a constant, living presence of love. Emma closed her eyes, taking a deep, grounding breath. She felt it, the quiet miracle of memory preserved, of grief softened, of love enduring. In every whine, every nudge, every touch, Max had shown her the sacred power of connection. The shoes, once just empty objects, now held a new meaning. They were no longer symbols of absence. They were symbols of presence, of love that persisted through time, through memory, through life itself. And Max, steadfast and intuitive, had been their silent guardian. She hugged him gently, feeling his warmth, his steady breath, the quiet life in his old but loyal body. "We'll keep walking together, Max," she whispered. "Every step. Every day. Together." Max rested his head on her lap, eyes closing, tail curling in peaceful rhythm. The house was calm, the morning light soft and golden, and Emma felt a deep sense of wholeness settle in her heart. Love, memory, loyalty, healing, all intertwined, all present, all enduring. And in that quiet sunlit morning, Emma knew that their bond was eternal, unbreakable, sacred, and filled with the quiet, heart-touching presence of a loyal, intuitive friend. Life had taught her gently, love never truly leaves, and those we hold dear remain with us, in memory, in heart, and in the steadfast loyalty of those who walk beside us.